Hej, ja jestem Sojusan, a to kolejny odcinek serii Zagrajmy w Eternal Strands. Kontynuujemy naszą przygodę i właśnie idziemy do nowej lokacji. The Archon's Heart. Zobaczymy, co nas tam czeka.
Where am I? Underground.
That barrier almost looks like the veil.
It must be the one Lucia wrote about in her notes.
And the panel looks like our scribe. Anyone know what it is?
No idea.
Similar design to a scry, but it looks like it's a permanent installation. Like it interfaces with the room. Could this be the harness?
Must be. It seems like Asylum involved sealing away whatever's beyond this barrier. With this discovery and everything else you found, I should be able to piece together what Asylum actually was.
Okej, czyli wracamy od razu do Lin. Szybko poszło. Ale tam w sumie pisało, że trzeba stworzyć item, który pozwoli nam otworzyć przejście. Więc mogłem się domyślić, że tak będzie. Okej.
I know we need to discuss the barrier and its potential ties to the flood.
Of course. Years after the surge, there was...
You don't think it's due to the
Well, that may be part of it, but we can't be certain due to what seems to have saved them was Asylum's execution.
almost like
Exactly.
it's got to be where the Hearthsiders went, right?
To an undisclosed location.
But it would make sense, wouldn't it?
It can also mean prison. I know everyone... You would think there would be at least one and there simply...
Khan Stanild gave the orders to execute Asylum.
Judging from the series of letters between him and the commander, and judging from the frequency with which he followed this defensive measure, he seemed to grow increasingly concerned.
Isn't
Leveraging a security crisis to consolidate.
and the commander?
It would appear that Asylum was executed, but until we find the Hearthside.
We mention unmanageable casualties,
You
what
said
they
the
mean.
casualties spiked long after.
This is truly the thousand-fairer question. Arc hostility could certainly be... The recorded minutes from other meetings in the war room illustrate aftershocks and earthquakes and... Well, not to... But these threats seem to plateau in the early...
That's so
It is.
Luckily has many secret discuss the need for secrecy further.
So the Enclave didn't just hide information from the rest of the Mater.
Judging from the secrecy and a few of the letters, clearly not everyone was in...
People like
And a dissenting group known as the... Though it's entirely unclear...
so. Back to the barrier.
Yes, the very same. She was right, too. The raw magic that off-gasses from the veil. In speaking with Darm, we theorized that except in a more pressurized environment...
We don't get small pockets of raw magic.
Precisely.
So we need to remove Asylum. Now we really need to talk to the other.
Agreed.
Spotkanie z wszystkimi.
All right, let's go over everything we know so far.
We know that, for a time after the surge, civilians continue to live in Tenebron. We're still not sure the...
Wherever the Hearthsiders went, they're still actively sending scouting groups from the uniform. The creeper who was watching Brynn.
We also know that a defensive procedure codename... This was done using a barrier.
Lucia, an ex-high enchantress, opposed to
Her research forecasted that the barrier would cause the Enclave the very same flood that seems to have killed Lucia before she was able to finish her thimble.
But we have her design.
So Lucia's thimble is the key.
It's less a key and
Whatever works.
What is it, Lane?
I've pored over all the documents we've compiled and a concrete link, but I can't shake the feeling we're missing
You
something.
have a point, but remind them surviving the flood is our priority. There is nothing I can handle. Yes, really, that I've got this. Send information blackout. Wonder if that's why the link is missing.
The Enclave destroyed a lot of information. Could that be why you can't find a link between...
I considered that.
Being a weaver isn't about being certain all the time. And regardless of the Hearthsider's location,
You're right. I just hope that if we...
Even if it does.
that settles it. Brynn,
Okej. Musimy stworzyć itemik.
Thank you for your help with that, Brynn. You've a deft hand for flame magic. Also, Lucia knew what she was doing. This
Must be her experience as a...
based on Lucia's notes and what we discovered at the Bastion. This
If it can stop the flood, we need...
agreed. We don't know how much time we have left.
Okej. Możemy od razu lecieć dalej. Chyba tak. Tak, lecimy. Będą aż 3 Lumgrave'y?
That console that looks like our scry should be the controls for the barrier. The thimble was built to interface with it.
Time to disrupt Asylum.
Tak po prostu trzeba to wbić w środek? No, przyszedł ktoś. Myślałem, że on nam pomoże.
Great timing. I owe you one.
You need to come with me. All of you.
Olowią, do wszystkich gadał. O, ludzie.
We mustn't cause a panic.
Sure. It's not like we had a dire supplies shortage on our hands before this happened.
What do I tell the High Enchanter? The Guild will want...
Enough. We won't discuss this further. Identify yourselves.
Aurea Harpenay, or Silverbeak, as I'm known among Weaver circles.
Brynn.
Khan Stunild, Eye of the Enclave. My colleagues are the Spindle and the Axle, representatives. Who sent you?
Sent us?
Taza? Renland? The Enclave is the envy of the Maida, for it's clearly one of those nations has finally grown a spine and decided to take...
Moment.
No one sent us.
You expect me to believe that you bypassed our veil, infiltrated our loom gates, and breached asylum?
When you put it that way.
This is a misunderstanding. We're weavers, like you. There was a brief opportunity. Everything we've done since we arrived has been to uncover what happened here after the...
If that is true, have you really no inkling?
No.
Your reckless conduct has unleashed an enemy that nearly destroyed...
The Surgeborn. They first appeared a little over a decade after the Veil.
Where did they come from?
No one knows. But they arrived in the underworks before making their way to the surface.
Where they left a trail of destruction in their wake and wreaked havoc on the Enclave.
Causing casualties to...
And so I called for a retreat here, saving countless lives. We sealed the... until now.
We mess up for sincere apology. The Surgeborn came out of the underworks easy enough, offered to put them back in. They knew we were here, wondered why the head sighted didn't intervene sooner.
We've been here a little while now. Don't you think all of this could have been avoided if...
She's right.
This is hardly our...
Look, Surgeborn or not, we had no choice. Though I suppose we owe you thanks for warning us about the...
Who?
You did.
Did we? I'll deal with you.
While we can agree Arakin breached no contact protocol, it has proven to be the right decision. The floods were growing worse, and now they have stopped. Even if fixing them has introduced a new problem.
One my band would be more than happy to help you solve.
Ha! What?
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned your last name earlier. Any relation?
She was my mother.
Of course! I mean, before my time, obviously. But she's still renowned in the Enchanting Guild.
Oh.
There is so much I'd love to ask you. Aurea comes from a long bloodline of outstanding and renowned weavers. Shouldn't that buy her band some grace?
Your presence in the outskirts will be...
What about the Surge? But
What about them?
shouldn't we work together to deal...
We could use the help.
The Surgeborn are a problem for anyone in the outskirts, not us.
The scouts do head into the outskirts to scavenge for supplies.
We'll take our own precautions. Speaking of...
But
Enough!
Brynn, the one that led us here is clearly the one that warned us. Try to talk to him before we leave. Maybe he's willing to work with us.
Will do.
Okej, sporo tutaj wszystkiego. Tu coś jeszcze jest? A, tu jeszcze coś jest.
Hey, Arakin.
oh, just call me Arik.
Arek!
Well, Arik, I never got a chance to thank you. You know, for...
I think you had it. Besides, the Eye is pretty peeved with me, but hey.
Business angry at us about being released to
So
school.
you're not upset that I breached Asylum.
I've been pushing to do something about the Surgeborn. Setting them free wasn't great, but sealing them in the underworks indefinitely with... Frankly, I think Khan Stanild is just annoyed you. I guarantee he has no plans to do anything.
You don't think he sees...
He's got his head in the sand.
Sounds like he's happy. Wonder if he's pleased about our arrival.
I'm thrilled you're here.
I have to say...
Oh, yeah. Sorry for all that cloak and dagger stuff earlier. Khan Stanild, but it was the right call. From what I just saw, you're...
How so?
Notice how the axle took my side against the eye earlier. And the spindle is as quiet as a mouse. It might not sound like much, but they're excited you're here. That's why he backed down so easily.
Since I'm fond of Stranild, nie wiem jak to przeczytać. Ask about their dynamic.
Seem to get along very well.
What gave it away? The eye doesn't like anyone who shows initiative. Unfortunately, those are my main qualities.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression he's my biggest fan.
I'd worry if he ever decided to get off his throne, but he finds that throne.
This our response find out what he wants to know about me.
Fully trusting of us, considering.
I was spying on you the first time we met, so.
Sure. Maybe you know everything already.
Just one. Why are you here?
The world needs the enclave, tell him I hope to bring down the veil. His people have been through so much since the search. Tell him I want to help. We need to find our way back home. Tell him I want to live. To drugie w sumie.
Growing up, I saw the Enclave as a symbol of what we, after all, we have no home to return to. The more I realize how much your people have, I'm here to help.
That is exactly. If that's truly what you want, then dealing with the surge. Ever since the veil went up, our people have been in crisis. They've spent. It doesn't help that some have benefited.
Who?
Who always benefits. Our leaders are too preoccupied with their own concerns.
Such as?
The spindle is obsessed with getting the arcs functional again. And the axle is too stressed about our supply shortage. But if their concerns were handled, they...
That sounds like an opportunity. And are you a...
Representative, yes. Sway? The scouts were once points like you, but we were effectively drafted into scavenging for food and supply. Recently, we've even been... Anyway, it's the guild leaders who will need to pressure. That's where my people need your help the most. Then...
Sounds like I've got some palm...
Yuck. I'll come by your camp later. We'll be able to speak more freely there.
Jaka scenka?
What is that about?
The eye isn't one for idle chit-chat. That's worth watching.
Talk to you back at our camp.
You got it.
Sev, you all right?
No.
You sure?
Brynn, the rest of us are heading out. See you back at...
I got...
Consult with Despinda in Cassandra's hold. Companion. Consult with Sola.
Before Asylum, all the loom gates were reset so that the surge board... How did you reconnect?
We tracked down a key swatch to Denevron. Found it in the...
Your band is quite resourceful.
Sure, I can trust her side is being non-committal. She doesn't know it was about the band skill. She would have a lot in common with the such the two of them speak.
Dom loves discussing magical theory. He...
That is, but the Eye wouldn't be pleased if he caught me speaking. No offense, but I should really get...
Excuse me, but Arakim mentioned you're the Spindle, a leading we wanted to formally introduce ourselves. I'm Aurea, as you know. This is Dom.
We didn't catch your name earlier.
Just call me Isla. Is there something...
We'd actually like to help you. Apparently you want to...
Shh. Sorry, that sounds wonderful, but the Eye won't be happy about us.
Be seen speaking to us, reassure her, claiming things would be huge to her. It's bigger than the Eye political games. There's no harm in working together. I wonder why the Eye would be upset.
Come on. You must know better than anyone how integral the arcs are to the Enclave.
I do know that. I mean, I do want to fix the arcs. More than anything.
Okay. We'll try, but forgive us.
It's Dom. He's the one that might forget.
We know that the arcs began malfunctioning after the surge. Select any idea on what caused the...
Some theories, but nothing solid. Anyone who knew how to create. I've tinkered with an inactive arc that's lying near the Grand Gate, but it would make a world of difference if I could study a resonance that was freshly harvested from.
Consider it done.
Brynn's got you covered. She has a knack for harvesting.
You'll have it in no time.
If you're sure, I certainly would appreciate it.
Right.
We've been talking a while.
Great creature arc on is at location to search for a great arc. Check the long gate menu before leaving an expedition. And a great arc for a fresh arc on resonance.
All this wreckage scattered throughout the room.
Khan Stanil.
And that's because he...
Correct. Speaking frankly, my impression is that he wanted any visitors to, though visitors are few and far between. Upper government officials only. We are the lucky few. What a privilege it is to... I understand the motivation of wanting... We achieved that 20 years ago. And yet, I still...
Just ten cały eye.
I am simply telling you, as the foremost leader of the Enclave, that I don't want you get.
Can you clarify what you mean by...
You know exactly what I mean. Eyes, focus on your own problems. Organize your little craftspeople. Keep them, and don't dare to presume you know better.
If you have a problem with my performance, you are welcome to gather feedback. They may have a clearer understanding of what I bring to...
We'll continue this conversation.
Khan Atme, allow me to formally introduce you to Brynn.
You're the Axel, right? Arakim says you're...
I am. My given name is Haroon, as Arakim said, but you may refer... It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Despite the circumstances, the new Surgeborn threat requires us to realize some are a little slower on that than others.
If there's anything we can do to move things along,
What about the supply shortage? I've seen her in combat.
What's her help look like? I'd prefer if she could avoid unleashing another apocalypse on us.
Feeling this way to offer help. Supplies, nothing could be easier. Reassure her that I'm up to the job. We have an amazing quartermaster offer an introduction.
we didn't bring a lot with us, but if there's anything we can provide to you, a decade working the maiden shipping lanes turned her heart.
She sounds lovely. But unfortunately, we're supplying 10,000, and I doubt you'd have enough on your caravan to make much. Fortunately, there's a silver lining to your Surgeborn.
Count me in.
Right. With the Surgeborn unleashed, we're anticipating casualty. However, there's a restricted area in the underworks that we lost access to. An arcane laboratory where the Enclave conducted its enchantment research. Inside the Institute lies a significant supply cache. It's if the notes the previous Axel left me are accurate, though.
Of course.
The Surgeborn, secure territory, the Institute is likely overrun with them.
So, the Surgeborn...
I wish I were old enough to remember what it was like to live without. As a child, I sat awake knowing what I know now.
I'm sorry you went through that.
Thank you.
All the more reason to actually do something about the problem. Instead of...
You'll hear no disagreement from me.
Sounds like I need to clear any surge.
That'll thin them out enough that my scalp...
Now that Asylum is lifted, we should be able to... I'm going to trust you with this key swatch.
Only the eye would let such a...
Yes. If we're clear on everything, someone has to keep this goddamn fortress.
O, znowu coś chce?
What's your history here?
Why do you care?
You seem like someone who deliberately underplayed.
Or I was elected to this seat 8 years...
So?
It varies. Some of my predecessors... That's not my strong suit, though. Maintaining supply lines.
There was a real tension between her and the Ayas about that.
He would like to think so.
But his seat...
Khan Stanild wields power beyond... But he is our savior. So, which is to say, he is technically the highest. In contrast, I have...
She's downplaying how much she loves her, probe her motivation.
My predecessor was incompetent and took bribes. The guild members tolerated it for it. The Eye never seemed to have a problem.
Do you think he's...
You really aren't afraid of asking Dame... I personally haven't seen any evidence of his corruption. He believes in his own... It's easier to bribe the lower-level guild members.
Isn't that about...
The wheels of society must, if they do any more than skim a little off the top. And that's why I've managed to keep my...
Just need to finish up and leave her to it.
Thanks.
Dobra, pora pogadać z The I-em. Oko.
So, you.
Me?
The one causing trouble. The one poking into corners.
Had you allowed Arakim to reach out to us sooner, this...
Arakim has a proven record of poor judgment. I will not be lectured by the person. But let us start afresh. Please, share what you hope to accomplish by loitering around the hole.
Supply issues, tell him I want to help. Death must be dealt with, tell him I am here to stop them. A lot of knowledge is concerning, tell him I hope to preserve what I can.
Before we met, it was clear from my your lack of production capacity was obvious.
A caravan of 7 is going to supply a fortress of thousands. Though you are correct, sourcing has been a consistent problem since we have hundreds of trained scouts, but wooden swords and paper sheets. So despite certain assertions that we must do something, we...
Like it or not,
The Enclave stands on a blade. Stretch our resources too thin on risky... Certain elements of our population call for action, for bold purpose. And I ask you...
Well...
Purely rhetorical. We must survive, and we must make... There is no sacrifice too great. You, at least, understand the precarity of our situation. Now...
I do.
Thank you for your time.
But...
You may...
Też nie miły koleś. No dobra. Chyba kończy gadanie w tej lokacji. Mamy iść pogadać z Solą. The Institute, the heart of innovation known as the Institute, is now accessible via the Loom Gate. Okej, faktycznie coś tam jest. Ale na razie lecimy tu. Wow, z wszystkimi trzeba pogadać.
So, Aurea, what do you make?
Their living history. What they... All this time. It's great you've offered to help. Just be careful you're not going over the eye's head.
My intention is sure I will be careful when calling it, or her eye doesn't seem trustworthy. I will try not to stop on his toes, but point out that someone should help.
I get it. I'll watch out.
That's good to hear. He's led the Enclave during a... He knows more about the Surge, the Enclave, and our... He's been here. It's something we need to respect.
I'll try.
Good.
Hey.
Yes. There's something... I was born.
How?
Oh, luck. Or tragedy. Before I was born, my mother and father lived here, but they decided it would be better if my mother raised me with my grandmother and great-aunts for the first few... So she left with me when I was just a hatchling. With every...
But the surge happened.
The life I should have had was lost for good. Because of all this, I never knew my father.
There's a lot to take in. Ask why she didn't tell me sooner.
This is definitely...
I am sorry for that.
So why hide?
Talking about difficult and private matters, and frankly, I rarely see the point in dwelling.
I've always been a Centauria. Wonder if it's because of her family.
Have something to do.
Being here has meant a lot in some ways, and meeting the Hearthsiders was a lifelong dream. But the circumstances of our...
Knowing now that this is your birthplace?
This was meant to be my home.
Centauria wasn't told her first name.
Isn't it a little strange, your mother...
She was separated from him so suddenly. My mother is a strong woman, but whenever I asked about him as a child, she could only manage she found it too painful to discuss.
But now?
I can't help but wish I knew.
Wouldn't and have close-knit families ask about her mother's decision to leave?
Common for Oberon hatchlings to be.
No, but it is common for extended family to be involved in the rig. As you know, I come from a long line of weavers, many of whom... It was apparently quite a shock when my mother fell.
So your parents were looking for a compromise when it came to rape?
Exactly. And I wouldn't trade my great-aunts and my grandmother made me who I am.
Still, you missed out on your father.
Then she must be curious about her father's identity, offer to hold.
We're going to find...
You would...
Of course. Maybe Lane would have some idea.
Actually, I hadn't. The spindle mentioned a statue. It's clear the Enclave commemorated their champions. I can't...
You think there's a statue of...
I know it sounds strange, but the handful of times that my mother spoke of him, she described... Since she was one herself. Is it so crazy to think?
Maybe not. I can scope out the statues.
Good. And...
No, jeszcze coś?
Aurea, I'm curious. Why the sudden...
He was trapped in the Enclave my entire life.
Right. But I guess what I mean is...
I always had this sense that it wasn't something she could discuss. There was a hip... She was in love with him. And then she lost him. In this
That must have been
Yes. She wasn't a tragic figure, though. She carried it well. You'd never know. And truthfully, I had such a good life with my mother and my grandmother.
Until now.
Until we arrived here, yes. Something about this
being here makes me wonder. If the surge hadn't happened...
Most certainly not. You would have been a valued member of society. Did you have a good relationship with your mother?
I have a lot of respect for her. She's such a powerful leader.
You're afraid you've let her down?
Yeah.
My mother and I had our ups and downs. As daughters get older,
Any chance our mothers understand us?
She'll come around to the weaving. She loves...
She does.
Okej, teraz ta ma tutaj questa dla nas. Możemy coś ulepszyć? Nie. Talk. Pierwsza rozmowa.
The Hearthsiders look more traumatized than a beast of burden after a hurricane.
What?
I would think someone who grew up in the wake of war would recognize disorganized and unable to triage their own, suspicious of us despite our clear good and while their leader is in deep denial of the very real, they've been stewing in turmoil for so long, it's become their new normal.
You're right. They do remind me of some veterans back in Carnage.
Saw it 1,000 times over while working. Aurea may not want to hear it, but these people are...
I spoke to Aurea earlier. She certainly does want to give the Eye the benefit of the doubt.
Aurea has a case of hero worship when it comes to the Enclave.
Huh.
It's not to say great things didn't happen here. They're fallible. Brynn, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just... About those 90 Drake scales. I know Aurea said we don't need them, but she just doesn't understand. It's dangerous out here, you know? Especially now that these Surgeborn are loose. We need to be prepared for anything. It's just not... Do you think you could do it?
Why she needs to go behind her back.
I'm guessing Aurea doesn't know you want me to go Drake hunting. Do you really think it's a good idea for us to go behind her back?
It looks bad, but she just doesn't see what I'm seeing.
To be honest, I'm...
Please, just...
I said about her looking tired. Wonder if she's asleep
When's the last time you slept?
recently.
Kashar don't need as much sleep as Ashar or Casil.
But you need some...
It's been a while. Maybe 10 days. Or...
Hasn't said what the Drake scales are for.
You told me why we need them.
We want the best gear and weapons, don't...
So, Solar?
Not exactly.
Want to help, but fire Drake scales aren't the answer to her. This isn't making sense.
Kaz, you need to tell me what's really going on here. The Weaver Band is more than okay. We're in the best shape we've been in since we entered the Enclave. Now that... Besides, the caravan, it's not making...
You think I'm insane?
No.
Of Era's breath. I shouldn't have brought this up, but you just don't understand. Everyone could die if I don't... It would be...
Whatever this is, please just tell me...
No. I shouldn't have burdened, but...
Kaz...
I can't talk about this anymore.
Caspian is not okay. And I don't think bringing her more stuff is the answer. I'd better talk to Aurea. Kaz, you know you can...
Nothing's going on.
You don't see...
It's just... No one seems to understand how important the Ashpeak Drake skill... Bad things are going to happen. You know what? I just can't talk about this right now.
Okej, idziemy nakablować do Ori.
Hey, Aurea.
I know. I'm worried too. Let's talk at the archive, privately. I'll join you and Lane in...
All right.
Codex. Cassandon's Hold.
It's safe to say Casmin hasn't been acting like herself. She's always been tight.
Brynn, she seems more open with you than most. Can you describe in detail what's...
She's begging me for more supplies, even though the
Not that we could tell, because she's covered.
More than that, she just seems distressed. She's convinced we're all going...
I have heard rumors of abnormal
What kind of...
In polytheistic beliefs that are pervasive in the southern part of the Maida, there is an affliction. The sufferer is haunted by twisted visions of death and pain. The goddess of justice, Ira, won't allow the sufferer inner peace until they repent.
Ira asked them to...
What does Ira's plague have to do with...
While most see Kashar as a celebrated merging of the two cultures, some fringe sects, they believe the wider lineage simply leads to more and thus only...
Really?
The concept of impure lineage is clearly hogwash.
I don't know Casmin series, just wondering if that's what she's hiding things from us.
Casmin was spiritual.
Though not devout herself, Casmin grew up...
You're right.
It's possible Casmin's affliction was a point of... Perhaps she fears rejection.
Pretty logical ask if they are suggesting Casmin is cursed.
Casmin is...
Of course not. I'm confident that this is merely a stigmatized phenomenon that could not... So the populace explained it...
Any ideas what fact?
My apologies. I forget most people don't follow. Scrupulosity can be best described as for example, if Casmin is plagued by relentless images of our band dying...
She might send our point out over and over again to...
Yes, in order to...
Affliction or not, we need to help Cas move on to next steps.
Casmin is suffering.
And preemptively? No,
As I said, this is likely nothing more than a condition that has... A scientific explanation must exist, and thankfully we are...
You think the Enclave could have done...
Makes sense.
Where should... The steps in the upper city is where I'd start. Between the main building of the spire and the atrium used to stand a school. From your explorations, the surge hit that area.
Great. What am I...
Maybe the name of someone who suffered like Casmin. Or a healer. If you find someone like that, you'll want to search the areas of the city where they spent... Ira's plague is wildly misunderstood across the Maida. If we could find a treatment, it could...
You're right. I'll start...
Okej, co tam jeszcze powie Lin?
I have to say, I'm a little...
Me?
I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into with the Enclave. You're not just helping them. You're diving headfirst into their political...
Lane, if I can fight an Archon 10 times my size...
That's exactly... I was raised in the midst of... There's always something unsaid or... Just be careful.
You won't find Oria's father running amid statues. What do you mean?
You know what's most likely to get in the way of family? A scholar wants to trace a family. A living relative wants to find their great...
Why?
A scholar is objective. They have no
And you're saying?
I'm saying she needs to expand her search. And without objectivity, her search will turn up nothing.
That sounds good to Lin emotional terms are, but think family isn't always what defines us. Tell them it's possible Oya is only looking for answers. That makes a lot of sense. Wonder if it could cause issues in Oria's search.
It's her father.
Of course. No one could, of course. All I'm saying is
I'll keep that in mind.
food for thought. One of the greatest tragedies of the Surge is that the Enclave might not be that old, but with so many...
I can understand. Oh? Whatever stories Khanhanda's had, and we haven't had times.
Ah, yes.
Wait. Like what Dom called?
I always am. Habit born of a youth. But, yes. I suppose... Did you ever have the urge to press a little harder? To try and learn just one or two stories?
Yes, this is where my ability slightly lean. I prefer to look forward. I regret not pushing harder. Talk about the quiet moments.
If I didn't want to look forward, I wouldn't have left to join Aaron's. So I'm here to live new...
I understand the drive. But not to make assumptions, but it can't have been...
There's joy. And even though that's what independence...
I understand. Perhaps our presence can help the den...
Okej. No, też coś chcesz?
It might sound callous, but
they're in worse shape than
they've done so. How can a society once renowned? It makes me question if they were
some myth to keep weavers.
Exactly. Something for us to believe in.
Spring told him you are having doubts too. This doesn't mean the promise of the enclave isn't real. Tell him you have hope. Enclave, była taka gierka kiedyś. The truth is probably complicated. Tell him you don't think it's matter of fact versus fiction.
I've honestly been having the same... It's not exactly living up to the story.
Not just bedtime stories, but books. I'm just not
Dobra. Pierw z nim.
So, what were you speaking...
Nothing.
I didn't mean to pry. I just wanted to make...
You want to know? Then how come no one is at all concerned with the fact we can't live? This isn't my life. Traveling with a weaver band was supposed to be temporary. There are things I should get back to in Tarza. And it's increasingly clear no one has any idea. So no.
I'm so sorry. I had no...
Aye.
The truth is, we don't know how... But if you want to leave, we should have made that more of a priority. So we'll work on it.
Really?
No catch. Apprentice or full-time weaver. What...
Dobra. Sola, teraz twoja kolej.
That wasn't exactly the warmest welcome. I'm guessing the Enclave Council isn't your biggest fan right
They view as a problem. Shall you concern with her? I've got charisma. Was that you can bounce back from this rocky start. I will win them over. Tell her you're confident they will come around.
I mean, we did let the surge...
A part of it is still...
I am worried they won't warm up. But...
Whatever the council thinks of you, I'm glad you're trying...
Yeah. They don't...
Nothing out daring point.
Okej, teraz twój quest.
Sev and I realized we might be able to repurpose the carapace more than... Purely theoretical right now, but I'm contemplating tangle-resistant gear.
Dom, I'm a little busy trying to look over these Tarmakind schematics again.
Oh, okay. You're right. We...
Everything all right?
Yeah, a bit. I'm not sure.
Have you told him how you're feeling?
It feels like he's so wrapped up in his own discovery.
He is easily distracted, but maybe you should try again. If there's one, he must care about your...
Then why isn't he asked? Sorry, this isn't on you. I'm just frustrated.
How so?
I need to show... By investigating Tarmakind practices, maybe I can make some...
Hey, I'm always down to investigate lost knowledge.
You'll help me?
Of course.
Amazing. I'll ask the Axel if she knows anything.
Great idea. I'll meet you at Cassidon's.
Dobra. Teraz ty, Arakim.
Making yourself at home?
Yes. I've always wanted my own ruined fountain. I don't want to presume, but being here is...
And the eyes.
I convinced him I would be keeping an eye on you. Frankly, I think he's... I ask the kind of questions that make him uncomfortable. You know.
Lucky for you, Oria loves when people ask those... Welcome to the camp, Arik. We're glad to have you. And...
You still call us?
Yeah. But it's more...
Let's.
How are you settling in, Eric? Things good?
Good. Yeah, they're fine.
Just good?
No, not really. Something's going on at the Hold, and it's the eye publicly scorched you for opening up Asylum. And yet I've heard him telling the Spindle that this. Meanwhile, the runners are stretched paper thin, which, of course, leaves my people.
Sounds like you could use some help.
Really? No, wait, I know. The Spitfires. In particular, they're building nests in some areas I was hoping to use as training.
Would the areas be safe if I took care of the nest?
Yes, though the nests are very durable. They will.
Consider it done.
Maybe an odd request. Could you ask Oria if I could power the scry while you're tackling them?
Why not ask her?
I feel like I have a lot to learn from Oria and how she works with you. And
She is a force of nature.
No, dobra, jeszcze coś chcę.
thanks again for offering to talk to Oria. It's genuinely exciting to learn from someone new for one.
Okej. To co? Trzeba z Orią jeszcze pogadać.
Hi, Oria. I am here on...
That's weirdly formal.
He finds you intimidating. Personally, I don't see it, but
He does.
he's wondering if he could power the scry while I run an errand for him. He's...
Happily. But feel free to tell him I was a bit scary, to keep him on his toes.
Good news.
Should play this straight, tell him Oria was happy to do it. I would guess he loves a challenge. Play up, scary Oria. He needs to understand we collaborate, explain the situation to him.
Oria's absolutely willing to give you pointers on this. She joked I should play up her scary side, but honestly, she's an...
I've coordinated lots of operations from Cassidon's Hold, but I never had much a chance to learn from someone with decades of experiences. I'll be there with you then, when you get close to the nests. They're in the Bastion's yard and...
Dobra. To teraz jeszcze tylko trzeba iść pogadać w kolejnej Cassadin's Hold. Cassadin? Cassadians. Jeszcze tu trzeba pogadać z tą Solą. Co, i to będzie wszystko z gadania i w końcu przejdziemy do akcji.
Brynn, you brought your talented smith. To what?
I was wondering if you might have any information on Tom.
I'm not well versed in Tarmakind myself, but I recall you could try searching the guild district in High.
Sola is actually hoping to restore the lost art herself.
The smithing guild also had an extensive library. You might.
Thank you.
I admire your ambition. What you're hoping.
If anyone can do it.
I don't know about...
I can believe it.
Okej, już wiemy gdzie.
Oria's father is unlikely to be a Casil woman. Besides, when it comes to nurturing parental figures, Ramanos's shrewd eye for politics isn't what comes to mind.
Need I remind you that your access to Cassidon's Hold...
I didn't mean to.
You would do well to mind yourself, newcomer, or risk losing the privilege of coming to Cassidon.
Okej. Dobra. Teraz tak, mamy Companion Questę. Upper the Nevron Guild District. Tam się udamy. Ale tym już zajmiemy się w kolejnym odcinku. Także dzięki za oglądanie i do usłyszenia w kolejnym. Na razie.